In the beginning of the story, we are introduced to a village in Western Australia called Jigalong in 1931, where a tribal community lives. For over 100 years, white settlers have prevented these tribal people from expanding their land. Now, a new law gives white people control over the lives of all tribal people. A legal guardian, Mr. A.O. Neville, is appointed with the power to govern the lives of the tribal population in any way he chooses. He also has the authority to take away any half-caste children, those born to tribal mothers and white fathers, from their families whenever he wishes. Among these children is a 14-year-old girl named Molly, who lives with her mother and grandmother, though her father is no longer with them. Molly's family makes a living by building rabbit-proof fences, a wire wall spanning thousands of miles to prevent animals from East Australia from crossing into the West, where they damage crops. Molly has an 8-year-old sister named Daisy and a 10-year-old cousin named Gracie. All three of them are half-caste, making them subject to the authorities' control. When Mr. Neville learns that there are 3 half-caste girls in Jigalong who have grown up, he signs papers ordering their removal from their families. Police arrive at the village and forcibly take the 3 girls from their home. Despite the desperate efforts of Molly's mother and grandmother to stop them, they are powerless against the officials. The girls are placed in a train cage, treated like animals, and taken several miles away from their village to a mission camp in Perth. At the mission, half-caste children are taught domestic chores and farming skills, with the intent of preparing them to work in white households. Mr. Neville believes that within 3 generations, the bloodlines of half-caste children will be whitened entirely, eventually erasing their Aboriginal heritage. To achieve this, the mission teaches these children to assimilate, disregarding the emotional impact on them and their families. Upon arriving, Mr. Neville examines Molly's skin tone to see if her complexion has lightened. Children with lighter skin are given a standard education to better integrate into white society, while darker-skinned children are relegated to learning household tasks. The aim is for Molly and the others to be fully indoctrinated, losing their Aboriginal identity. One day, a tracker on horseback brings back a runaway girl who had tried to see her boyfriend. The tracker's job is to catch any child who attempts to escape. He brutally beats the girl in a small room as her sisters look on, horrified. A few days later, Molly, determined to reunite with her family and unable to endure life at the camp, decides to escape with her siblings. Early one morning, while the other children are at church, she and her 2 sisters make a run for it, hoping to reach their home, which lies thousands of kilometers away. The camp remains unaware of their escape until evening, when the nuns take attendance. Realizing the girls have been missing all day, they inform the tracker, who quickly begins following their trail, deciphering their direction from footprints and other clues. Mounted on his horse, he pursues them through the wilderness as Molly, Daisy, and Gracie continue to flee, determined to make it home. Upon reaching a river, Molly devises a clever plan to evade the tracker. She asks her sister for her bag and places it on a bush to mislead him into thinking they went that way. She then leads her sisters through the water, hoping to avoid leaving footprints. However, the tracker, experienced and sharp, sees through their ploy and continues his pursuit. As they sense the tracker closing in, the girls quickly hide in nearby bushes. Once the tracker passes by without spotting them, they resume their journey, though they are growing hungry. They soon encounter 2 tribal men with some fresh game. Recognizing the girls' clothing as those worn by children who escaped the camps, the men warn them that the tracker is relentless, having always managed to return escapees to the camp. Understanding the perilous path ahead, one of the men offers the girls some meat and a matchbox, which they gratefully accept, eating their first proper meal in days. Back at the camp, Mr. Neville has learned of the girls' escape. The tracker lost their trail after the river, but he's aware that they could still be on the move. Meanwhile, Molly's mother discovers that her daughters and niece have escaped and, despite the long journey ahead, is overjoyed at the thought of their return. As the girls continue their journey, Molly finds a chicken coop outside a farmhouse and steals some eggs. The woman who lives there catches Molly, but instead of reporting them, offers the girls food, clothing, and a warning to avoid local boys who are hunting rabbits. Molly asks about the rabbit-proof fence and learns it's nearby, running east to west. Knowing this fence can guide them home, Molly leads her sisters toward it, trusting that following it will take them back to Jigalong. Their spirits lift when they finally reach the fence, a familiar marker that connects them to home. However, Mr. Neville, informed of the girls' movements, realizes they are likely following the fence and calculates where they might be headed. He dispatches the tracker and another official to intercept them along the fence route. As they continue their journey, Molly's youngest sister becomes exhausted, her feet cracked and sore. Despite the hardship, Molly lifts her onto her shoulders, determined not to abandon her. She reassures her, reminding her that she'll eventually need to walk on her own. Along the way, they encounter a friendly man camping by the fence. He gives them food and warns them that the path they're taking goes west instead of north, leading them in the wrong direction. Molly is shocked to learn that there are 3 rabbit-proof fences and realizes they've been following the wrong one. Fortunately, the man provides them with a shortcut that will save them nearly 100 miles of travel. After several more days, the girls come across a house where a woman, also of half-caste descent, is drying clothes. Recognizing them from a newspaper report, she is shocked to learn that they've traveled over 800 miles on foot. She invites them to stay for the night, offering them a brief respite from their exhausting journey. That evening, as they sleep, a white man unexpectedly enters the home, unaware of the girls' presence. When he notices them, he quickly leaves without incident, but the encounter underscores the constant danger surrounding them. Molly, eager to keep her sisters safe, decides to leave during the night. However, the woman who's been helping them persuades her to stay until morning. Not long after, they hear the sound of approaching vehicles, and Molly realizes that the authorities have arrived to capture them. She quickly leads her sisters to hide behind the house in some bushes, carefully erasing their footprints to avoid detection. The tracker and his men, unable to spot the girls' tracks in the dark, decide to resume their search at dawn. The following morning, the tracker notices signs of brushed leaves and realizes that Molly had hidden their footprints. Yet, the girls have already left and are far ahead, following the rabbit-proof fence once again toward their home. Meanwhile, Mr. Neville, increasingly frustrated, circulates false information, spreading word that Gracie's mother is waiting for her in the town of Wiluna. When the girls meet a man who repeats this message, Molly immediately senses the deception. However, Gracie, desperate to see her mother, insists on going to Wiluna. Molly tries to convince her that it's a trap, but Gracie doesn't listen and decides to go with the man. Molly, eager to keep her sisters safe, decides to leave during the night. However, reluctantly, Molly and her younger sister, Daisy, continue onward. Molly soon regrets leaving Gracie behind and returns to find her at a railway station, hoping to signal her back. She catches Gracie's attention, but before Gracie can reach them, Mr. Neville's men arrive, including the man who misled her about her mother. They take Gracie away, leaving Molly and Daisy heartbroken yet determined to carry on alone. As Molly and Daisy continue their arduous journey, Mr. Neville sets up men along what he believes is their route. However, due to a shortcut the girls took earlier, they avoid capture. Days turn into weeks, and after 21 days, the men stationed by Neville give up and leave. Neville, now desperate, writes to the authorities in Jigalong, instructing them to capture the girls upon their arrival. Exhausted, thirsty, and with no water in sight due to the drying lakes of summer, but their strength is waning. Molly, carrying Daisy on her back, eventually collapses from exhaustion. After lying unconscious for hours, Molly awakens to the sound of an eagle, which reawakens her resolve. Gathering her remaining strength, she picks up Daisy and heads toward North Fence, the last stretch toward Jigalong. As they near Jigalong, word reaches the local authorities that Molly and Daisy are close. A man from Neville's camp moves into the forest to intercept them, but he encounters Molly's mother and grandmother, both prepared to defend the girls. Molly's mother, armed with a sharp stick, confronts the man, and despite his gun, he retreats. At long last, Molly and Daisy reunite with their mother and grandmother, who embrace them with relief and joy. Molly, however, laments that they couldn't save Gracie, who was taken back by Neville's men. Knowing the authorities will pursue them if they return to Jigalong, Molly's family decides to live away from the village, seeking safety from further separation. In a testament to their strength and resilience, Molly and Daisy have made it home, defying all odds and showing that the bonds of family and determination are stronger than any law meant to separate them. Meanwhile, Neville informs his men that due to limited funds, they cannot afford to continue the search for Molly and Daisy, effectively closing the case. Molly and Daisy's incredible journey home required them to walk for 9 weeks, a total of 63 days, over a distance of 2,400 kilometers. Remarkably, these 2 young girls managed this barefoot trek, covering such a vast expanse on foot, which astonished many. As the story concludes, real footage of the elderly Molly and Daisy is shown. Molly reflects on how she never saw her cousin Gracie again after her recapture, as she later learned Gracie had passed away. Molly recounts that she eventually married and had 2 daughters. However, Neville's men once again took her and her daughters back to the same camp. Yet again, Molly escaped, this time with 1 daughter, and journeyed the 2,400 kilometers back to her village. Tragically, the same daughter she rescued was later taken back to the camp, and Molly never saw her again. In the closing moments, Molly and Daisy, now in old age, assert that they will never return to that place. And with this, the true and harrowing story of their resilience and courage comes to an end. So that's it. Hope you enjoy the story. Subscribe and press the bell icon for more videos.